Welcome back to Terraforming Mars. So we're just about done with the green project cards. I think we'll also get through at least most of the event cards, if not all, in this video. So let's get started. So the first one is geothermal power. Now this one is also a bargain deal for the price of 11 money because you get to increase your energy production 2 steps. That is a deal for sure. Then we have Open City. Fueled generators. Phobos Space Haven. Now this is like Ganymede Colony. That project card from the last video. This one costs 25. You get to place the city tile on the reserved area, which is Phobos Space Haven, which is not on Mars. And not only that, but your city tile will not be worth any victory points. However, this one is giving you 3 victory points right off the bat. And it's also going to get to increase your titanium production 1 step as well. So that's kind of an interesting card. Black Polar Dust. Domed Crater. Now this one is interesting because this is something you can play in the beginning of the game because the oxygen has to be 7% or below. It's the max is 7, right? So it's easy to play at the beginning of the game. The cost is 24 money and it's got the building tag on it. And you also have to have a energy production of at least 1 to be able to play this card as well. But it's also going to increase your mega credit production 3 steps. It's going to give you 3 plants, and you also get to place a city tile, and it's also worth a victory point. So this is like an awesome jack-of-all-trades type of card. You get a lot of different stuff with Domed Crater. It's totally worth the money, in my book. Noctis City. This is another special one. So for the cost of 18, Noctis City. And you also have to, once again, have at least 1 energy production to be able to play this card, because you're going to have to decrease it by 1. You do get to increase your mega credit production by 3 steps. But what's really interesting is you'll place this city tile on the reserved area, disregarding normal placement restrictions. There is a spot on Terraforming Mars that's called Noctis City, and that is reserved for this card. And you will just place a regular city on that location for this card. That's a pretty interesting placement card for sure. Methane from Titan. Eos Chasma National Park. Algae. Adapted Lichen is a nice bargain deal. For 9 money, you get to increase your plant production 1 step. And it has no requirements, so that's really nice. Kelp Farming. Well, this one's definitely one of my favorites, but you have to have at least 6 ocean tiles on the board in order to do, and the cost is 17. But you'll get to increase your mega credit production 2 steps. You'll get to increase your plant production 3 steps. And you'll also gain 2 plants, and don't forget, you get a victory point too. So this is a really nice card, and it's definitely one of my favorites. Then we have Lake Mariners. Farming. Capola City. Lunar Beam. Energy Saving. Immigration Shuttles. Plantation. Soleta. Now let's talk about this one. So for the price of 35 money, and it does have the space tag on it, so you could use titanium for the price, or most of it anyway. You'll get to increase your heat production 7 steps. Is that worth it? It depends. Late game, it is not worth it late game. It is not worth it at all, because most likely the temperature is already most of the way up, if not all the way up, your heat is basically useless once the temperature is pretty much maxed out anyway. So, beginning of the game, it could be useful, but it's also very expensive, and it might take a couple of turns just to save up to play it. So, that's the question. Do you waste 2 generations in order to play it in the beginning of the game? Or do you, just ignore it and pass on this one? Soletta. Underground City. And that's the last of the green cards for the normal project green cards. So let's get into the events. Giant Ice Asteroid. Well, this one's an interesting one. 36 money. You also can use titanium for it. Most of the events that have to do with asteroids, you would normally get to use titanium for price. Playing it will increase the temperature twice. It'll place 2 ocean tiles, so that's nice. And it can remove up to 6 plants from any player. So as long as you have an opponent that has a plant, you could remove 1 up to 6 from 1 player, which is pretty cool. Pretty cool. Now, if you're playing solo games, you might not want to do it, because if you would have to remove up to 2 plants, or up to 6 plants from yourself. So you'd have to remove at least 1 plant from yourself, because it's up to that. So is it worth it if you're playing solo? Probably not. But maybe. Who knows? Guess it just depends. Then we have Mining Expedition. Nitrogen-rich asteroid. Towing a comet. This is definitely one of my favorites. It's not extremely expensive for 23. You can still use titanium if you want. You'll gain 2 plants. You get to raise the oxygen 1 step. And you also get to place an ocean tile. This one is pretty cool. Ice Asteroid. For the same cost, you get to place, of the last one that is, you get to place 2 ocean tiles. Is it worth it? Maybe. Special Design. Now, let's go over this one because it's unique. And there's a few of them that are like this. For 4 money, the next cards you play this generation. So, it's usually easier to do this before you play your second action on a turn. Otherwise, you might forget, because you're only allowed to do 2 actions at a time, and then allow everybody else to do their actions before it goes back to you each generation. So you play this first for 4 money, and then the next card it will work towards the next action cards you play. And what does this exactly do? Well, it messes with the global requirements. So some requirements require the oxygen to be a certain amount. So you can actually decrease it by 2. If the card told you, I don't know, you needed 12% oxygen in order to play it, but you only had 10% oxygen, if you played Special Design before playing an action card that said you'd need 12, this would allow you to play it because of the Special Design. Same thing with the ocean tiles, and same thing with the temperature. So one of these 3 options, it can increase or decrease. There are some that require a maximum of oxygen. Maybe you're already past the point of no return for oxygen, but maybe you're only up by 1 or 2, so this would, drop it down, allow you to special design a particular project card. So that's, interesting, for sure. But it is your choice which one you work it towards. Oxygen, heat, or ocean tiles. Temperature. So that's kind of an interesting card, and there's a few of those like that. Okay, then we have Aerobraked Ammonia Asteroid. Now, this one is a card that will give you microbes to another card. So, if your opponents are the only ones that have the microbes, you're helping them out. Because it says to add to. It doesn't give you a choice. Unless there are no cards that you can add microbes to. So, if you have your own microbe cards, this is worth it for you because you get to add 2 to them. You also get to increase the heat production 3 steps and your plant production 1 step for 26 money. That's pretty nice. Now this one is pretty cheap and I like it a lot. Import of advanced greenhouse gases. You'll get to increase your heat production 2 steps for the price of 9. That's a pretty awesome card. Then we have Convoy from Europa. This is another one of my favorites. For 15 money, you get to place an ocean tile, and you get to draw a free card. That's pretty nice. Whether that card is useful to you or not remains to be seen. It just depends. But it's totally worth it because it's free. Then we have imported greenhouse gases. For 7, you get to increase your heat production, and you get 3 heat. So that's pretty nice. Now this is another one of my favorites, especially if I am on the animal, plant, and microbe route. For sure. Because for 23 money for imported nitrogen, you get to raise your TR rating 1 step, which is also your score as well as your money. And you get to gain 4 plants, you get to add 3 microbes to another card, and you also get to add 2 animals to another card. So if you have an animal card, if you have a microbe card, this is totally worth 23 money, because you also get 4 plants, and you get to increase your TR rating 1 step. This is worth 23 money. But if you do not have any of these, or just one of these, it may not be worth your time. So it just depends on the strategy. Ice cap melting. Subterranean reservoir is a nice one, because for 11 money, you can place an ocean tile, which is pretty cheap. There are ways of placing ocean tiles, but it's worth a lot more than that. So 11 money is the cheap way of doing it if you manage to get or should I say, find a subterranean reservoir. Then we have Large Convoy, another interesting card, but we will go over it after all. So for 36 money, so it is expensive, but it does have an Earth tag and a titanium, or should I say a space tag on it. So for 36, you get to place an ocean tile, you get to draw two cards, you get two free cards, you gain 5 plants, or add 4 animals to another card. That is an interesting card, and it's worth 2 victory points. So at the end of the game, so you could do the animals to get a few extra victory points, or maybe there's still a need to increase the oxygen, so going for the 5 plants might be worth it. So it just depends on during the point of the game, and if you are using the animal cards too. Then we have imported hydrogen. Then we have asteroid. Then we have comet. Then we have big asteroid. Then we have Deimos down. And then we have local trap heating, permafrost extraction, flooding, and release of inert gases. For 14 money, you get to increase your TR rating 2 steps. So that's kind of a nice one too. And that's it for the blue project cards. I mean, that's it for all of the events for the normal project cards. So we will continue in the next video with those blue ones over there.